Hello and welcome to another MovieBoozer.com virtual pubcast. I'm your host, Ken Eggerman, and I'm joined today by Too Many Painkillers or Hawk Ripjaw.
Hi.
I'm also joined by Bill Arsenault.
Call me DJ Oxycodone. Or not. Just call me Bill, whatever. Not Bill whatever, just Bill. Yeah.
Bill whatever.
Yeah, Bill whatever. That's fine.
That's your hip hop name, Bill whatever.
Bill Oxycodone.
Hey, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, ooh. That's a good one.
That works, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I just dropped the mood.
But anyway. I want to start singing that Blues Traveler song, but anyway.
Oh, yeah. That's an old reference, huh?
Yeah, I wish I had a harmonica right now because I was going to attempt to whistle, then I realized I don't whistle very well. But anyway.
I listen to Blues Traveler pretty often, actually, the old stuff.
I actually have like 4 or 5 of their albums.
They're not bad. They're good.
I got pretty big into them back in the day. And I will say their first 3 or 4 albums are really solid. And then they actually kind of like after they dropped off the map as far as like radio fame, they started putting out some really adventurous and unique kind of pop rock stuff. And then just a few years back, they started working with this producer who tried to make them more commercial again. And it just sounds like the worst adult contempo bullshit. And they have not gone back. And it's terrible because they put out this album in like 2006, I want to say, or 2005 called Bastardos. That is probably one of my favorite albums like of all time. It's great. And then the follow-up to that and everything they've done since has just been trash. And I just want to find John Popper and beg him to please stop working with producers who want to make you commercial. It's not going to happen again.
John Popper. So basically, they're giving us the runaround, right?
Yeah.
Girl, why you want to give me a run around? I can't do that part where he does the run around.
Well, you know, the hook brings you fame.
Yes, exactly. The hook.
I love how one of their biggest hits, I mean, Runaround obviously was their absolute biggest, but one of their biggest hits was a song literally about pop hooks and why pop hooks are kind of lame.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we have. I keep saying, but anyway, we have a lot of things to talk about today, and the first thing we're going to lead off with is the recent the resurgence of Adult Swim's most popular and most promoted show, despite the fact that it really only has 20 episodes and has been and it took 3 years to come out with season 3.
Yeah, about
I don't know about 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not 3. Took a while.
Well, it takes a while to get animation just right. I mean, you can't just...
And the fact that Adult Swim is operating on a more limited budget, I think, it's like the same thing with Venture Brothers. What I think Adult Swim does right is they allow the animators... They don't require the animators to produce a show every year. They say, when you guys are ready writing the next season, we'll put your season out.
Not to mention, Adult Swim doesn't get in very much advertising revenue because they just don't have as much space for it. They fill the commercial breaks with the Adult Swim bumpers and maybe 15 seconds of a track from Flying Lotus or something like that. Wait, no, I'm serious. Flying Lotus has been doing the Adult Swim bumper music for years, and one of those weird animation things.
He's got to be good at something. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Just don't let Flying Lotus make a movie, please.
Sure, yeah, we discussed that last week, but his music is fine.
Yeah.
Well, and Adult Swim does work with, as far as their bumpers, they do work with a few other really interesting animators. The one that I've always been a fan of, I think its name is Cyrac or whatever, who does those weird animation things where he takes pictures and manipulates them into a loop that is creepy as hell. marching panda bears or teddy bears that are like turning into spiders and shit.
Yeah. Adult Swim gets weird at night, but Rick and Morty, the second episode of season 3, I mean, because season 3 premiered on April Fool's Day as a huge surprise for everybody.
Right. Well, before we get into episode 2, I actually waited to watch episode 1 until this week, specifically because I didn't want to have just one episode and then like this huge gap in time.
So did you spend months wondering what the fuck everybody was talking about with Szechuan sauce?
I actually did not. First of all, I so completely, totally understand the whole Szechuan sauce thing, because I had the Szechuan sauce when it was popular, and it was the bomb.
The YouTube channel Binging with Babish attempts to remake that sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, granted, I was young, but
have you ever watched Binging with Babish?
No.
I may or may not have.
It's a great YouTube channel where this guy tries to recreate dishes from TV shows and movies.
Oh, okay. Yes, I definitely. Is he the guy who like, especially if the recipe is completely weird and fucked up, he'll still make it and taste test it?
Yeah. Usually he modifies it a tiny bit just to make sure, to make it a little bit edible. But then there was an Always Sunny episode where he very specifically followed only the instructions that were given in the show and kind of were logical for making the dish. So one of the ones he tried to make was milk steak. And he poured jelly beans over it, and he almost threw up as soon as he tried it.
That was a Charlie recipe, wasn't it?
Yep. And then he's like, well, that's Charlie's recipe, but I'm going to try to make it correctly. And so he actually makes a milk steak, like a professional cook would.
When I hear the name milk steak, the only thing I can think of that sounds logical would be like a chicken fried steak thing where you're making a milk-based breading. That or some sort of beef dish that has a milky cream sauce on it.
I'll have to share the link with you guys after we're done, but he's a really fun channel. But anyway, he tried to make the Szechuan sauce on there, and he tried it a few different ways, and I'm curious to try it.
You never had it, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I distinctly remember, because they even put the chicken nuggets in little Chinese food containers. Mm-hmm. And it was and I remember McDonald's, part of the reason they discontinued it was specifically because of complaints that it was racist.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, which Mulan was accused of being. And admittedly, I can see their point, because there's a lot of white people playing Asian roles in the movie. But they, at the same time, that's actually, you know what? Before we talk Rick and Morty, this is actually a perfect time for me to bring up one of the people I wanted to discuss later in the show, the late June Foray, because she actually voices a character in Mulan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
June Foray actually in Mulan voices a character named Grandmother Fa, and she's one of the larger characters in the film. But besides that, she is one of those. She passed away, for those who don't know, at the age of 99 on July 26th. She is kind of recognized as being one of the premier female voice actors of all time. Famously, when Chuck Jones was asked if June Foray was the female Mel Blanc, Chuck Jones said, no, Mel Blanc is the male June Foray. And her career really bears it out. She has an insane amount of credits in everything from video games to television, live action performances, radio shows, movies. And her career range all the way to like the 1930s in all of these roles. Her most famous role that she'll be remembered for years to come is Rocky the Flying Squirrel.
Yeah.
Who she voiced in cartoons as recent as like within the last 10 years.
In the movie too, the live action movie.
And I saw her interviewed like 4 or 5 years ago, and she did the Rocky voice and sounded just. I mean, the thing about it is, if you're a voice actor and you take care of your voice, you can keep working literally pretty much up to your death. And she did. Her most recent credits that she has are within the last 4 or 5 years. Apparently in 2015 she suffered a car accident that she never quite recovered from. But still, that it's insane how many things she had. She actually didn't win an Emmy until 2011 when she did a voice role on the Garfield show, a cartoon thing, and she ended up getting an Emmy for that. But when I look first of all, I'm on IMDb. She has 308 separate credits in film, and that's as an actress. Now that's 308 credits, not including individual television episodes, because when you break it down, she voiced Granny in Looney Tunes, and she voiced Granny for decades. She also voiced Witch Hazel, another famous Looney Tunes character. She voiced numerous smaller characters in various shows. I'm trying to see if I can find any particularly unusual ones here. Let's see. Okay, apparently she voiced. Oh, you know what? She was Granny in Tiny Toon Adventures also. So that brings me back. She was Jokey Smurf in the Smurfs.
In the new one too?
I don't think she was in the new one. Yeah, no. The new one may be no. The Smurfs cartoon series. She did multiple side voices on the Alvin and the Chipmunks series.
She was in The Adventures of the Gummy Bears.
The Incredible Hulk TV series. She did voice credits. Tons of Looney Tunes voices, mostly smaller roles. She
was in The Phantom Tollbooth.
Yep, classic movie.
Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for another one of those.
Oh, here's one of the shortest film roles, but in my opinion, one of the most impactful. In the original How the Grinch Stole Christmas TV short, she was Cindy Lou Who.
Yeah, I knew that.
She has one friggin' line, and it is the just most absolute darling line you've ever heard, and it's incredible. And I remember this. She was Talkie Tina in the Twilight Zone, so she was the doll that was threatening to kill Telly Savalas. I'm Talkie Tina, and I'm going to kill you. Oh my God! Yeah, I can't speak about her enough. You know, she lived to be nearly 100 years old, and God bless her. She deserves all of the praise that she's gotten and more. And if you want to see some interesting footage of her, one of her more recent appearances was in a documentary called I Know That Voice. And it's a documentary about voice actors in general. And it's really a nice in-depth look at voice acting, everywhere from movies to video games, TV series, and a huge amount of voice actors throw their 2 cents into it. So anyway, I just wanted to side note there because you mentioned a movie that she happened to appear in, and it made sense. We'll go back into Rick and Morty real quick and then jump around.
So speaking of Szechuan sauce, and I'm echoing somewhere.
Oh.
Not on my side. I've got my headphones in. So
yeah, I got my headphones in too.
Okay, maybe it's just me. But the Szechuan sauce is revealed in the end of the pilot episode for season 3. That is all that Rick is after.
It's like his life's dream.
Yeah, his entire character arc, as he puts it, and the end of episode 1 is a mirror of the speech from the beginning of the end of the pilot, where Morty has fallen over and Rick is standing over him, ranting and drooling about what they're going to do. But this time, it's the Szechuan sauce. Mm-hmm. And then season 3, episode 2, kind of parking lots that arc for a minute and deals with other things.
Before we get into that, I do want to mention, since we were chatting about this the other day, that speech from episode 1 of from the pilot, and also from this episode is a brilliant example of Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland's writing, in that it is basically the perfect distillation of the kind of manic alcoholism that some people get, where when they have reached some people who are alcoholics reach this point in their drunkenness where they start making promises like crazy to people and talking about all the great things they're going to do, and you just know, even when you hear it coming out of their mouth, you know that what they're saying now they will have forgotten in the morning, and they don't give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
And it is
kind of go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's kind of what makes Rick such a great character, and we were also talking about this the other day. With the finale of season 2. You've seen that, right, Bill?
Yes, I've seen both seasons. Yeah.
Okay. At the beginning, at the end of season 2, Rick has through the people he knows kind of put the family in danger, and they're on this tiny planet, and then Rick just leaves. And it's such a great ending to the season with Nine Inch Nails' "Hurt" is playing, and then Rick turns himself in, and the family gets taken back to Earth, and Rick gets locked up.
And Earth has changed. Earth has become a member of the
Galactic Federation.
Yeah.
Which the Galactic the thing that's interesting about the first 2 seasons is Rick is fighting the Galactic Federation, and really you don't have two. Not unlike Star Wars in a way. They never really give you too many reasons to hate the Galactic Federation other than Rick assures you that they're evil. Now, the first episode, of course, of season 3, they start to show the darker side of it. And to an extent, that's an interesting twist there, because I was kind of wondering whether the Federation was actually... the feeling I had was that Rick just hated the Federation because they were a form of organization.
Yeah, and then now they're shown to be a little more antagonistic.
Exactly.
But
so go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Well, there's still nuance to it, because they're just responding with an equal amount of force to what is literally the galaxy's most brilliant and dangerous person.
Right. Rick is basically a god. I mean, he creates life.
And destroys it.
Oh, he created a life form that's entire purpose is to slavishly solve a single question or single problem and then die. And not only does it die, but its entire being wants to die, because every minute it exists is in pain, as a motivation for them to die.
Yeah.
Or he creates a robot just to give him butter.
Yes. That's also one of the more brilliant. I mean, I also love how if you just Google the butter robot, there are so many people who've built one now.
Mm-hmm. They make their own.
What does that say about society when when something people want is a robot that questions its own existence?
Yeah.
What are butter?
And that all is still part of Rick, who, why does he do all these things? Does he want answers? Is he a sadist? Is he looking for something he knows he can't find? There's a lot of, and even, I was talking to Bill about the end of season 2, he gives himself up just so his family can be safe on Earth again. And he's a horrible, manipulative person, but then there's also these moments of genuine kindness for his family.
Weirdly,
excluding Jerry.
It kind of reminds me of Breaking Bad in a way, in that the character of Walter White is, but in almost a reverse fashion, in that Rick is presented as this horrible human being who has this kind of hidden love for his family that he does not really express, versus Walter White is this kind of family man, everyman kind of character who harbors a secret resentment for everything, and so it's almost like they're foils for each other in a weird way.
Yeah. Well, in season 3, episode 1, there is a flashback to Rick's origin, and the house he's working in is almost a perfect recreation of the Breaking Bad house.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Did you notice that?
I noticed that, and that. You know what? I noticed that, but I didn't like connect the dots until you just like mentioned that. I was wondering where I had recognized that from.
Yep, it's the Breaking Bad, Walter White's house. So again, that direct parallel there.
So pointing that out was maybe a subconscious thought of mine.
Yeah, and
wow.
Yeah, and I think, there's so many good theories online about Rick. Like, maybe he secretly does truly love his family, but he doesn't want to show it, or he's just angry and hates himself but still cares for his family. Like, there's a lot. It's a cartoon that's been on for two seasons and change, and yet you have his entire following just trying to dig into Rick's personality. Like, that's just fantastic writing.
There's also that moment in season 1 where Rick creates this creature to destroy it as a way of testing a suicide machine, that the only reason he doesn't end up committing suicide is he passes out.
Yeah.
And it's, another perfect example of self-loathing, which, of course, if you've ever listened to Dan Harmon's podcast, Harmontown, Dan Harmon has a great deal of self-loathing, and in many ways, Rick is a hyper stylized embodiment of Dan Harmon's personality. And I would, but there are plenty of people out there who really, I have a close personal friend who doesn't like Dan Harmon because specifically of his abrasiveness. And the thing that fascinates me about him, and why I actually really enjoy him as a writer, is how outspoken he is about his own foibles, including how he redirects his self-hate against other people sometimes.
Yeah.
So level 2, episode 2, we need to get into now. Anyone seen Mad Max?
It's an interesting. I read a few complaints online. It's like, oh, this feels like old Rick and Morty. This feels like an episode that was written a year and a half ago, and only now we're just seeing it now that we're on season 3. But after I thought about it, I kind of disagree.
First of all, I wouldn't care because it's just that funny.
It is.
The fact is, when you look at the old episodes, there are plenty of episodes spread throughout seasons 1 and season 2 that are the episode where we're just going to focus on this humorous situation. And
but they don't just do that. Like, they take the situation and they kind of work its thematic underpinnings into what's going on in the lives of the Smiths.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this really what for those who haven't seen it, I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but I will say that basically Jerry at this point after episode 1 has started to move out as a result of the divorce that she's asked of him, and he's after his separation, Rick takes Morty and takes Summer to this
wasteland.
To this wasteland version of Earth, which is it's basically I wouldn't be surprised if, because the first episode referenced the episode where he created the where Rick created the Cronenberg Earth. Mm-hmm. And this kind of feels almost like a Cronenberg Earth that has turned into the wasteland. So do you think this is the same place, or do you think this is just another wasteland Earth?
It's hard to say. Probably
you
a different wasteland
Cronenberg Earth, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I feel like if it was supposed to be Cronenberg Earth, it would have referenced it again. It would reference it, yeah. So it's a different wasteland, I think. What was your favorite quote from the episode?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, I only saw the episode once, so I haven't yet started to memorize the quotes. But go ahead and say yours, and maybe it'll.
They're going to the Thunderdome, and so Rick says, "What are you doing with that Thunderdome?" And the guy's like, "Actually, that's our blood dome." And then Rick says, "Save it for the semantics dome, E.B. White."
Yes. Ooh.
Which is funny because that's not a reference. Like, there's people on Reddit, they're like, I don't know what that means. But it's an easy enough joke that once you look up the reference, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. That's.
I'm surprised they're getting the dad and the mom are getting a divorce, because throughout the first two seasons, their relationship, while it's very, touch and go, and it's kind of leading towards a divorce, there'll be an episode or two where they kind of reconnect,
Yeah.
despite it all.
But it's been a marriage that's
like
been on the rocks forever.
Yeah, it's constantly on the rocks, but they'll have these moments where they, kind of, it gets touchy between them, and they kind of connect again. So,
but I think that's the problem with the relationship, is that it's a very toxic relationship where that occasionally dips back into the honeymoon phase.
Okay.
For every once in a while they're high school sweethearts again, but then they got to come back to the reality that they're two very dysfunctional adults trying to run a family.
Yeah.
I think the thing I liked most about about episode 2 was the entire subplot involving Armathy.
Yes.
Now,
don't spoil too much about Armathy, because that's such the way that they kind of evolve that as a subplot is great.
All I will say, I'm not even going to say what Armathy is. All I'm going to say is the way Armathy communicates with Morty is a brilliant form of it's a brilliant form of sign language that works in strange ways. There's a logic to it, and you can tell they put a lot of work into coming up with how that would make sense.
Yeah.
And the revenge that he gets is it's almost cinematic how much detail they put into it, and it's amazing that these episodes are so short. Rick and Morty episodes are like 22 minutes at most, and they sometimes go through these story arcs that are incredible. It almost reminds me of like the way the Twilight Zone would take you through just the most intensely emotional, dramatic moments within a half-hour show, and you can tell it just takes a sharp writer to come up with something like that.
Yeah, and it also, like, just as a, to add on to that, the Armathy arc also gave Morty some of his most compelling character development that he's ever had on the show. Yeah.
Bill A., I want you to watch that episode. Did you see the first episode yet or not?
No, I haven't even seen the first episode. No.
Oh, okay. Well, I want you to watch both of those as soon as you have a chance, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Maybe we can hear them on another recording later on.
Okay. Well, you're talking about Morty's character arcs. I think my favorite one, if I had to pick one, that I felt really deeply invested in, was the one where Rick and Morty visit that. They're kind of caught up in this whole adventure involving other versions of Rick and Morty throughout the universe in different dimensions, and it's revealed at the end of it that the mastermind behind all of these different things that have been happening was not an alternate Rick; it was an alternate Morty.
Yeah, an evil Morty.
It was evil Morty. He was a depressed Morty too. He had like a thing over one of his eyes, a patch, and he was just constantly like, his head was below his shoulders, he was holding his head low, and this is the guy that was doing all this stuff. It kind of said a lot about the potential for Morty to go to dark places. And
right. Well, the reason why I think Rick focuses so much time on Morty is, I think, and it's been hinted at but never explicitly said, that because Rick, he keeps telling Morty that he keeps Morty with him because Morty's dumb, or from that episode, because Morty automatically blocks some sort of like satellite.
He's so dumb. He's camouflage for Rick's brainwaves.
He's basically like Fry from Futurama or something.
Yeah. But here's the thing: I honestly think that Rick sees more of himself in Morty than he lets on.
Oh, totally. He's taking him under his wing,
and to the point where he has simultaneously wants to keep Morty from becoming him, while at the same time accidentally corrupting him.
Give you the taste without.
In fact, I would even argue Rick hates himself so much that he sees Morty becoming someone more like him, and he's intentionally trying to keep Morty dumber because of that.
But he also connects with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Which,
Yes.
because Rick, godlike though he might be, even he had to have started off without so much knowledge. And
I see a lot of moral oral in this show. Do you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Maybe not quite as moral,
Not quite as dark, but I mean,
or specifically anti-religious.
or specifically anti-religious. Yeah, and not as wacky either. Like Rick and Morty gets pretty wacky at times, but they both reach these emotional highs and these epiphanies
And lows. Yeah.
and lows and these wonderful epiphanies that few cartoon shows or even live action shows ever reach.
Now, it's no surprise to hear, of course, that Moral Oral, which is a show that was created by Dino Stamatopoulos. Dino happens to be a close friend of Dan Harmon.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah, in fact, Dino appears very often on Harmontown to talk about his weird sexual proclivities, which Dino is outspoken about. So it's
I used to be friends with him on Facebook. I don't know if he's dropped off or if he dropped me. I don't know.
It's probably one of those things. When you get enough,
it doesn't matter. It's fine, but yeah.
Dino's an interesting guy and very creative and as far as comedy writers,
he helped make Anomalisa. Charlie Kaufman.
He did, and he also helped make Mr. Show with Bob and David, which I still maintain is one of the all-time great sketch comedy series.
You know what my favorite sketch of that show was when they were trying to make Commercial the movie.
Oh, Coupon the movie.
Coupon the movie, yeah, that's right. And the studio execs were like tearing their hair out trying to make this movie a success.
Right, to the point where they sued the American public for not going to see the movie, and a judge ordered that everyone in America had to. And so the advertisement for Coupon the movie has like pull quotes like I saw it and fulfilled my legal obligation.
Yeah. Or it's a movie.
I think my all-time favorite Mr. Show with Bob and David sketches are the ones where they just dig deep into meta reference, like the pre-taped call-in show.
Oh yeah.
The pre-taped call-in show where this week's episode is talking about a topic that we taped last week. So if you're here to talk about this week's topic, you should have called last week. And if you want to call today, you want to be talking and no one gets it.
You know who would really love this episode?
Yeah.
Bill Leon.
Yeah, I know. We talked about animation. We talked about Dan
Harmon. We've talked about Mr. Show, music.
He hasn't been online for a few days, so I don't know.
I'm sure he's fine. He's just working or something. But,
yeah, which is fine. I mean, we'll catch up, and if he wants to bring up any of these topics later, I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
But so Rick and Morty.
Anyway, it's a good show.
A good show. All right. So moving on, really quick. I already talked about June Forey. Another person passed away this week who has a kind of special place in my heart as a not just a performer but a writer as well. Sam Shepard. Now, first of all, do you guys have much familiarity with Sam Shepard?
Yeah, I learned about True West in college. That was, I knew of it beforehand, but I got to dive deeper into it in college a little bit, and I even saw a little documentary on Sam Shepard's playwriting. And I've known about his. I see him in movies all the time. Like from good movies to B movies, and all the sorts. Like he's just kind of a Renaissance actor. He'll appear in. It's not like he doesn't have standards, but he'll appear in roles and immediately add a level of class and coolness to it just by being there.
Well, the thing that I find interesting, you say Renaissance man, and that's so true because he's directed films. He was a playwright, an actor, novelist, screenwriter, and he also for a brief period he was a drummer for a independent very under the radar rock band, a folk rock band in the late 60s, early 70s called the Holy Modal Rounders. And he co-wrote a few songs with people like John Cale of John Cale. You may know more for his work in the Velvet Underground. He co-wrote a song called "Brownsville Girl" with Bob Dylan, which is like an 11-minute epic. It's actually more of a story than it is a song, but it's really it's a good track. Very underrated piece of Bob Dylan's 1980s work. He was born in Illinois, and he passed away in Kentucky. So he was kind of a central U.S. kind of guy, and his work as a writer bears that out. Very much all about the everyman characters, and the first thing I remember seeing him in distinctly was as Chuck Yeager in The Right Stuff.
Yeah.
First of all,
I think that's the role that most people associate him with.
Yeah, it's probably his most like overtly famous starring role. He didn't have too many like roles as like the lead star in movies.
Yeah, I would actually associate him more personally with supporting roles, like in what was that? Steel Magnolias. He played the husband or the friend or something, the boyfriend of who's that? Dolly Parton.
Yeah, yeah.
He usually plays roles like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, he was also in August Osage County, also based on a play, Out of the Furnace. Yes. He was in Killing Them Softly.
I like that one.
Cold in July.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And The Notebook, for those who Black Hawk Down. He was the commander in Black Hawk Down.
He was in
really good role.
He was in Stealth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I remember him specifically in Stealth. I was like, "What's he doing in this?
What's anybody doing in that movie?"
Here's my guess. I would, based on the numerous small bit parts he took as an actor, I wouldn't be surprised if his acting career was really. I mean, granted, he definitely took roles in great movies plenty of times, but he probably used it. Let's be honest, being a playwright does not pay shit.
Yeah,
it's notoriously, being a playwright is one of the most insanely underrepresented, underpaying jobs.
This is going to make for a good segue, by the way, the whole playwright thing. But go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. In fact, actually, we will talk about that movie next as a result of that. I think that's a good. Speaking of that. Speaking of Bob Dylan collaborations, and also speaking of bad movies, Sam Shepard is one of the writers of Bob Dylan's infamous 1978 film Ronaldo and Clara. It was Bob Dylan's only directorial film, and it's basically a collection of a few different things, heavily improvised, a lot of concert footage, and sort of an experimental film.
How do I not know about this? This is fascinating to me.
Oh yeah, it stars Bob Dylan. His then ex-wife Sarah Dillon appeared in some scenes. Joan Baez is in it. A ton of famous people. Harry Dean Stanton, of course, because it's a movie and it was the 70s.
And he's an actor. He's got to be in it.
But if Ronaldo and Clara is, Bill A., you should definitely watch it, because I think as a fan of unusual indie cinema, first of all, I'm going to say it's terrible, and it's damn near incoherent, and it's also almost 4 hours long.
Well, hey, I watched 200 Motels, and that's a fucking trial to get through.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like that, where you kind of wonder what the fuck he's thinking, but you also kind of can't help but admire the fact that he was clearly going for something. You just don't know what it was. One of the best reviews I've ever read of Bob Dylan in film was a review of Bob Dylan. He made a movie in the early 2000s called Masked and Anonymous. And the All Movie Guide said that the movie is a film equivalent of a Bob Dylan song, ... just not a good one.
Oh.
And Ronaldo and Clara is a great, another great example of that. Masked and Anonymous is also a movie that you might get a kick out of, Bill. It's much shorter and it's slightly more coherent, but it's also it's literally, that movie is just an excuse for Bob Dylan to play a cowboy-like version of himself, traipsing along a post-apocalyptic America where every character is an actor who you clearly know wanted to appear in a movie with Bob Dylan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like an Adam Sandler movie where they just want to go on vacation.
Kind of, except there's a strong artsy fartsy vibe about it.
Oh yeah, Sandler's movies are just they're not artsy fartsy.
Think of the far more successful Bob Dylan biopic, which he didn't appear in, but I'm Not There.
Yeah.
Think of that kind of movie, except make it god awful, but strangely compelling in its god awfulness. It could easily be a best of the worst thing, but it's almost too artsy for that. So anyway, Sam Shepard, though, also much like June Foray, had a long, powerful career as both, it doing a lot of different roles, and most recently he appeared in 2 films of one of my favorite directors of recent, Jeff Nichols. In Mud, he played the enigmatic neighbor Tom, and in Midnight Special, he played the leader of that cult.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And apparently Jeff Nichols, on the set of Mud, he apparently wrote the character in Mud for Sam Shepard. He wrote it without Sam Shepard even saying yes. He sent the script to Sam Shepard thinking Sam Shepard was going to say no. He agreed to be in it, and apparently there's this great interview that I found where this guy on the set of Mud interviewed Nichols, and Nichols goes off on a tangent about basically just completely fanboying out on Sam Shepard. And it's one of the most kind of human things I've ever read in an interview, where you're watching a person who really should be promoting his film instead just go off on a huge tangent about just someone that he has a great deal of respect for. So anyway, and does anyone else have any other thoughts on this? We talked about it enough. On the note of playwrights, we were going to mention Atomic Blonde first, but we really should segue into The Incredible Jessica James.
Yes.
I'll let you go on this because I've been talking too long, Bill.
You need a break? Can you drink some water?
Yes.
Okay, The Incredible Jessica James stars Jessica Williams, who people may know from The Daily Show. In fact, a lot of people wanted her to take over for Jon Stewart before Trevor Noah jumped in. She turned it down. She said, "No, I couldn't fill those shoes." Yeah,
I think she could have done it, but I think this movie especially, I think, shows that she has a much more a different direction she wanted to go in.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we both watched it.
Okay.
Not together, but I recommended it to him, and he was like, "Okay, that's a movie I can see."
Right.
While incapacitated.
Because I don't have the ability to go to the theaters. This movie is new and listed on Netflix, so why not?
Yeah, it's a Netflix movie. It's a Netflix production, or at least it was bought by Netflix.
Right.
Netflix turned into a Netflix.
Netflix has been saving these indie movies that otherwise would just disappear into obscurity.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't want to wish that on The Incredible Jessica James because it's not a horrible movie, but if it had fallen into obscurity, I would have had no problem with it. That's an awful thing to say, I know, but honestly, I felt like, I mentioned people tearing their hair out earlier. I kind of felt like doing that watching this movie at certain moments.
Okay.
Despite all of its creativity and despite Jessica Williams's great performance, like that's really the shining bit of the movie is her. She's just radiant.
That and I really liked Chris O'Dowd in the movie too.
Chris O'Dowd's good too. Chris O'Dowd, and so is Lakeith Stanfield.
Mm-hmm.
That's his name. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Who was previously in Get Out. He had a small role in Get Out, but he was in this. He played her ex-boyfriend, and he shows up from time to time in kind of these interesting, non-linear, almost like ghostly dreams or something.
Dream sequences, really.
Dream sequences, yeah, and which kind of begin to kind of unravel Jessica's world a little bit. And those were aspects of the movie I liked. You know, I really enjoyed how, as the movie progressed, it kind of boiled itself down and broke apart the world that Jessica had created for herself. And it revealed all these different things about her that you really weren't expecting to be revealed or to even know. Mm-hmm. You know, some things were implied and suggested. Other things were flat out said.
It was very psychoanalytic, where you these scenes really get into her id, her ego, and her superego.
Yes, yeah. Superego is a big. That's a big descriptor for this. You know, her character, while she is very generous and compassionate towards children, specifically children she's teaching how to become playwrights at a little community school. She can be kind of a B word elsewhere, except to her friends. Her friends she's cool with, but to everyone else, like, she's just completely like alienated and
very hipster,
detached, very hipsterish. She says words frequently like dope and what's another word she uses? Like she uses ish at the end of some words, you know, like F-ish, this ish, that ish, you know, she says stuff like that's like Tinder ish, you know.
I can't make a complaint about that because I'm guilty of that.
Okay, well, I mean, she doesn't do.
I watched the first 5 minutes of this and I got the same feeling.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the dread feeling, the feeling of, oh God, I'm gonna have to sit through this?
No, not like that. I kind of liked her empowered attitude, but I'm not sure how much I could put up with it. Like just those first 5 minutes, starting with the opening scene in the club and then through the opening credits, just felt like a total sugar rush.
Well, the first 5 minutes I actually really liked because I thought that was what the rest of the movie was going to be. But then I'm sorry. I actually was looking forward to a movie that was going to showcase Jessica Williams as this particular character with a little bit of growth, you know, some character growth and stuff like that, which she does go through a little bit, but it's done a little too melodramatically towards the end, towards the middle and then the end.
The reason I kind of like seemed apprehensive is because I thought the whole movie would be that, and I could deal with that. But if it seems it's going in a completely different direction that I might not enjoy.
I'm going to go ahead and chip in with my 2 cents here really quick. This movie to me is an absolute by the numbers indie romantic comedy, like with quirky elements that you've seen a million times before. Really, the one thing that actually endeared me to it was her performance and Chris O'Dowd's performance. The actors in this movie really did endear me to it, to the point where I was able to forgive a lot of the more obnoxious kind of obviously done to death hipstery moments, and the fact that everyone has seen the story of the struggling up and coming performer who hasn't made it yet and doesn't know when they'll make it, and is having a crisis because of that. I was able to forgive that. I actually found it a fairly entertaining viewing, and I laughed quite a bit through the movie. Would I recommend this movie as, like, if this was a theatrical release? Probably not. Right? Yeah. But as a Netflix movie for me to put on while I was having lunch, this is what happened to me this afternoon. I came home from my doctor's appointment, and I had about 90 minutes to kill to eat lunch before I started my physical therapy here at the facility. And guess what? This was a great way to spend that time.
So it's a good way to spend your time while you're shoving food into your mouth.
It was a great way to. It was a great movie to pass the time, and not have. It wasn't deep. It wasn't very deep.
It wasn't at all. Well, I would argue
it wanted to be deep, but it wasn't.
Yes, yeah. There were moments in there that had some fine depth that I was hoping would have been explored more, like for example the dream sequences that she was having of her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then how slowly throughout the movie those dream sequences were revealed to be what they were. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, revealed more about her subconscious and revealed more about how she views others and herself and things of that nature. I thought that was really cool. And there were even some bits and breaks in the foundation of the general timeline of the movie, that it wasn't like this isn't a Shane Carruth movie or anything like that. It's not Primer. It's not going all over the place or anything, but it is. There were some moments in the movie where it was kind of taking it in a kind of a nonlinear direction in a way, at least thematically, and it just kind of stopped itself, and settled for a more cheesy. Not totally cheesy, but definitely melodramatic.
This movie wanted to recapture, I think, the indie the indie feel of a movie like Sleepwalk with Me, where it's telling the story of this person whose career is is at a questionable level, and she's going through a genuine crisis of conscience between that and her burgeoning romantic life, and. The fact is, Sleepwalk with Me is out there already, and it's a much more effective movie, and so I know Jessica Williams I would love to see in more movies, and I think that this could be a star-making, or at least the beginning of a star-making career for her. I just can't get behind. The movie, the whole thing of her, one of the arcs in the story, is that there's this particular student in her class that she really wants to nurture, and at one point in the film, the student indicates that she won't be able to go to this writer's retreat, the field trip that they have set up, and she goes out of her way to convince the father to allow her to go, without even considering the feelings of the student, who actually couldn't go and also didn't want to go because she wanted to spend time with her father and go to Six Flags.
Yeah. Now eventually Jessica eventually does realize this and apologizes for it, but it's like. She wasn't. I didn't get the feeling she was apologizing totally genuinely. I got the feeling that she was doing it for herself.
Right. I don't think they established quite enough of her actually seeing it as the error of her ways, so much as her realizing, that if she didn't apologize, then she'd lose a student or something.
Yeah, I don't want to think that of her though, but that they didn't really do enough to make me think the other way.
Now, this movie, by the way, is very short. It's
like under 90 minutes.
Yeah, with credits, it's like if you throw out the ending credits, it's under 80 minutes actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I think this is a movie that could have used a little bit more character building. They jump through it really fast, and I would say this movie is sort of. It's an admirable failure rather than a movie that I actively hated, and I know some of you might lie on the other end of it of not liking the movie in general. It was worth my time in the context that I watched it.
Okay, admirable failure I can get behind. I wrote cutely disappointing. Although I think I may have been. I should have said cute and disappointing.
Cutely disappointing
sounds like it was. I found the disappointment to be cute.
It's adorable, but this movie fails.
Yeah, exactly. Like what?
How quaint!
I think I'm gonna have to go back. I think I'm gonna have to go back and edit that. But
acutely disappointing is an interesting comment. I just don't want to say too much hate about this movie, because there were, I would say, genuinely throughout the movie, I smiled and I was entertained by quite a bit of it. It's just that there were also a lot of moments where that vibe hit my spine, where I was just like, all right, you're pushing things a bit. You're pushing things. Do you really have to make that many cell phone comments?
I didn't mind stuff like that. I just felt like when it dipped too far into the dramatics, like the movie was billed as kind of a quirky comedy. Mm-hmm. Like even in the trailers, it was built as that. And I'm not saying like, oh my God, Bill just realized that marketers sometimes mislead people. I'm saying, based on how the movie started and then how it kind of went along, I was expecting a quirky romantic comedy with a little bit of drama here and there sprinkled in, but enough personality to get it over those little ticks in drama. Instead, it kind of falls into these crevices where it can't really crawl back out of it. It's just stuck in melodrama mode or self-aware, self-conscious, mode of empowerment and things of that nature, and it becomes a completely different movie in tone.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with that, and I certainly I agree that that's something it kind of got. It's a movie that maybe it's my generation or something, where there's a few of these quirky vibes to it that feel more artificial than genuine.
Yeah.
Like the whole, does literally everyone who lives in New York and is an artist go to coffee shops and drink tea and manage to live in a pretty decent apartment, even though literally her only job is working at a children's a children's center, which I guarantee you that job pays, if anything, like $20,000 a year, and that's like generous.
And for New York, that's not enough. Not for where she's living. Now she's living in Bushwick, which she establishes, and I don't know much about the area, but she establishes is not a pretty neighborhood.
Right. Well, they don't establish that it's a nasty neighborhood, and the fact is, the apartment that she's in feels. I mean, it's not a great apartment, but as far as studio apartments go,
it feels nice. It feels okay.
I could certainly live in it. Then again, I guess I'm the one to talk. I lived in a single person dorm room for my last 2 years of college, and I legitimately considered moving into an apartment as small as that dorm room, because I think I could have easily got by with that. The only reason I didn't was I didn't have enough space for my DVDs. So anyway,
so, incredible Jessica James, not so incredible.
Yep. All right.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take that. All right.
If I were Armand White, I would name it Incredulous Jessica James.
Or say something like how Jessica James
is the new mouthpiece for the millennial generation.
Yes. Say something like that.
See, I don't want to go that far. I
went that far.
Okay. That's what Armand would do.
All right. Well, you go that far, Hawk.
So speaking of not so incredible, is a movie that is not incredible.
Well, we were going to segue into
Atomic negative,
Blonde, but go ahead and talk about the Emoji Movie, because I'm guessing that's what you mean.
No, I mean the Atomic Blonde.
He said
really?
Negative. He said not incredible. That's a double negative.
Okay. Oh, not.
Yeah.
Who's there?
Yeah, okay.
It's also not incredible, but it's really good. The Atomic Blonde movie.
The Atomic Blonde.
The
Everyone puts "the" in front of every movie title now.
The movie that is the Atomic Blonde.
The Atomic Blonde.
The Star Wars movie.
The Star Wars.
The Star Wars Episode 9 movie.
Oh, The Last Jedi, or not Episode 8. Episode 9 hasn't been titled yet. Yeah.
The Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi movie.
Star Trek, the Star Trek.
The Atomic Blonde that is directed by a spelling error David Lynch.
Yes, David Leitch is one of the co-directors of the original John Wick and Brad Pitt's former stunt double. As you might expect, Atomic Blonde is very much in the same family as John Wick is, which is to say very clean, brutal fight sequences, lots of nice color and neon aesthetic, lots of graphic novel feel to it.
And written, by the way, by Kurt Johnstad, whose only other screenplay credits that I can identify are Act of Valor and 300 and 300 Rise of an Empire.
Yeah. The story is not the strong suit in this movie, but it's actually told in a very interesting way. It opens with Lorraine, Charlize Theron's character and the Atomic Blonde in the title, is sitting down with Toby Jones and John Goodman and discussing everything that's happened in the last 10 days during her mission. So it's told in that nonlinear fashion where every once in a while it'll snap back to their conversation in the interrogation room and then go back to the events at hand. Basically, what's going on is that a man called Spyglass has in his possession a list of all agents, a bunch of agents that will be revealed as double agents working for two different sides if it gets into the wrong hands.
Okay.
What?
A knock list.
A knock list?
Knock.
Yes, a knock list. No, a knock list from Mission Impossible, the Brian De Palma movie.
Oh, okay. Yes, like that.
Yeah, there's so many spy movies that essentially do the knock list things. That's why. It means non-official cover.
So then James McAvoy plays a character named Percival who is sent by MI6 to try to find a list before it gets to the KGB. And then he's working with Charlize Theron's character, also with MI6, to get it. So they're working together. From the moment she gets there, she's made by the KGB and then is hunted by them throughout the whole movie. And also Spyglass, he has memorized lists as well, which makes him a walking asset and very, very highly sought after by the Russians. This takes place during the Cold War, in the final days before the Berlin Wall comes down. So it kind of creates this interesting setting for the action. It's very bleak, but Leitch finds ways to add color and personality into this environment.
All right.
As you might expect, the action sequences are ridiculous. The stairwell fight sequence is every bit as ridiculous as you would hope it to be. I don't know the exact time that it took, but this scene is at least 1 5-minute unbroken take of them fighting through rooms, up and down stairwells, and out into the street. And obviously you can kind of see where cuts might have appeared, but the way they put it together, it's styled as one very long take, which was kind of awesome. Because without any cuts, you kind of really see the exhaustion on the characters, especially Lorraine and a Russian guy that's twice her size fighting. Like by the end of it, they can barely stand up because they're so exhausted and bruised and bleeding, which kind of gets into this. There's a comedic aspect to it, and one of my favorite parts of it is this movie has the same sense of sadistic glee to hurting its characters as John Wick does. Lorraine's fighting style is different than John Wick. She's not precise and brutal and trained as a killer. Like John Wick almost dances with how quickly he can fight and everything. Lorraine is a lot scrappier. Like she will hit somebody. At one point she picks up a hot plate and swings it at a guy's face so hard that her own momentum knocks her down. It is a very brutal movie. What questions do you have about it so far?
Well, I got to ask, if the KGB is such an MF, do they call the CIA and MI6 to 86 the NOCs? Or does anyone wind up KIA?
Oh, God.
This is when you play the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme.
Speaking of which, though, this is one of the problems I had with it, but then maybe in retrospect, not so much, is that the plot's kind of hard to follow because, again, there's a lot of non-linearity, and also at the beginning of the movie they say trust no one, and the whole movie you are watching basically what is Lorraine's account of all the action going on, and so even that might not be entirely accurate. She could have kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Schmoozed some of the details a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So she's an unreliable narrator.
She could be. And this movie is also filled with double crosses and double agents, and this person might kill that one, and that one you think is here is over there and saying this to that person. And then they kind of, there's one reveal that I felt was kind of obvious, like a half hour earlier I'd figured it out, but they kind of play it as a big reveal, and I'm like, I'm not that surprised. But then they have another reveal later on that kind of calls into question a lot of other stuff. And then after I'd seen the movie, I read something that completely reframed what I'd thought of the events in the movie so far, and who was on whose side. So it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing, the plot.
Well, doesn't the movie start with like a little credit that says something like this isn't how it happened, this is what happened, or something?
No, it's like a text, an old computer font spelling out like, oh, on November so-and-so, the Berlin Wall came down. It marked the end of, and there's all this, whoosh, this big red X appears over it, and then in spray paint said, this is not that story. And then it segues into the actual events of the movie.
Okay.
Okay, maybe in context, I'd have to. Does it is?
I hate those movies that do that. This is not that movie. We're edgier.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of attitude to it in that respect. Like even the title cards, the subtitles that say a new area or something, or a frame of time. You hear the and then the spray paint goes over a stencil. So there's a lot of that gritty. Rebel aesthetic to it.
Okay, well, this movie almost sounds a little like it's got an edge like Wanted with James McAvoy, where it's almost a little satirical.
A little bit, but not quite as juvenile.
Not quite as juvenile about it, okay.
Yeah. Bill Skarsgård is a contact for Lorraine that she meets with to help him with stuff. Sophia Boutella is a French agent who exists for little else than to have a sex scene with Charlize Theron.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's okay. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, it's just kind of like there didn't really seem to be any point to it, but the soundtrack is awesome.
Okay.
I don't know what it is with 2017 and film soundtracks, but the song selections they've chosen for this movie are terrific. And
does it focus on 80s music or?
Yep.
Okay.
Personal Jesus, 99 Balloons, Under Pressure, like tons. Mm-hmm. And then they do a fun thing with some of the sound mixes, like you'll hear the music kind of like in the background, and then as soon as the first punch is thrown, the music cranks up to like the volume of the rest of the movie.
I think by the way, the whole 80s nostalgia thing that we're going through right now, I remember when I was a little kid, what was more popular than anything was like 50s nostalgia diners and 50s nostalgia stuff. And so when you think about it, I was born in the 80s where the 50s were 30 years ago. We're now at a point where the 80s was 30 years ago, which means we are about 10 years away from 90s nostalgia movies.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. I mean, that's kind of when I grew up. Yeah, I know.
My concern is in 20 years we get 2000s nostalgia, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah.
When we new metal nostalgia. Oh God.
Or T-shirts commemorating 9/11 all over again, but in a retro cool format.
Oh jeez.
I don't know how would they even do it? Like it's a lot of trailers that do this in movies. Like how would they do that in a stylish callback sort of way?
I don't know, but they'll figure something out.
Because like Thor Ragnarok has his whole 80s video game aesthetic to its titles.
Yeah.
And how are they going to do 9/11 nostalgia in that same? What
aesthetic will they choose? I don't know. New metal, like
what is Guardians of the Galaxy 6 going to have as its aesthetic?
So here's the thing: if 80s nostalgia is all like 8-bit stuff and like video game graphic, like NES graphics, when we get to 90s nostalgia, are we going to have like really dated, bad CG graphics?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What about those video games that were also like movies?
The FMV, yeah.
FMV games. Yeah, it'll be something like that.
We can finally see Night Trap the movie.
Yes.
You know who did good reviews of those movies was Spoonie. Spoonie one.
He did a lot of those. I will say, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but there was one FMV game I got a huge kick out of when I was a kid because I've always been big into westerns. And did you ever hear of the Mad Dog McCree games?
Yeah.
No.
Basically, they filmed a really crappy cowboy movie, but in FMV style, where every few minutes, like you get to shoot characters, and it's even today. Like I'll still fire up my old CD version of the game just to laugh, and it's got some wonderfully bad dialogue that's so it's like the corniest Western you've ever seen / played.
But anyway, yeah, it's a fun movie. Like it's a lot of fun. The plot is a little bit complicated, and it takes more thought than it should in a movie where the prime attraction is these ridiculous action sequences.
So any movie with John Goodman does beg the question, does John Goodman get any really good performance moments, or is he just kind of there?
No, he doesn't have any major moments, but he does get a really good moment where he's talking about the Berlin Wall, and he's saying, he's like, sometimes I'm so paranoid, I am afraid to just wake up in the morning.
Okay.
So like, he does get a pretty good monologue.
So, but it's not on the level of, say, the "fuck you money" dialogue.
No, it's not a "fuck you money" dialogue.
Which is, I've never seen a single speech make an entire movie worth my time.
Sure, yeah. He's more like extra flavoring for a movie that's already really, really good.
Okay, fair enough.
And
Bill Skateboard, was he good in it?
What?
Bill Skateboard. Yeah,
he's fine. I like him a lot. His character didn't really do a lot, but it was kind of an important character. He just wasn't. He wasn't really a character in the sense that James McAvoy was.
So would you say that Bill was stellar?
That was a very that joke was extremely shoehorned in this conversation.
Yes.
yeah. Literally, anytime I see Skarsgård now, I don't.
That was a great SNL skit a couple of years ago where I think it was, who was the other Skarsgård? The
Stellan.
Not Stellan, but
Peter
Skarsgård. Although I think he's a Sarsgaard, not a Skarsgård.
Yeah, he's Sarsgaard. Yeah,
there's a lot of them.
They had him on the show at a Pirates convention. He was invited to be like their guest or something, and they're all going, "Arr, Skarsgård," and they start bringing up his movies. You were in Jarhead, and stuff like that. Just things that rhyme with "arr," and whenever he mentions a movie that doesn't have an R, they go, "Oh."
Stupid.
I know it was a stupid skit, but I mean, it was that they needed to fill in time.
Yeah.
And waste everyone else's.
Speaking of wasting everyone else's time, you saw the Emoji Movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh God.
So.
Oh God.
No, but seriously, go see Atomic Blonde. It's really awesome. But the Emoji Movie, yeah. It's what?
How'd you survive it?
The Emoji Movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. How do you survive anything in life?
I guess that's a good, yeah. All
right. So it's the Emoji Movie is about the world inside your phone, and T.J. Miller plays the meh emoji. And here's something I should just start off by saying is that the Emoji Movie is not the hellfire turd that you would expect it to be. It's certainly really, really bad. I don't recommend it at all. It's an awful film, but to its credit, there are a couple of interesting world building things, like ways that they make the world inside the phone kind of work for these suddenly anthropomorphic characters. So all the emojis are in this kind of Hollywood Squares style grid, and the kid is scrolling around looking at emojis on his phone, and then these guys holding a giant robot hand in the middle of the circle they spin it around until it lands on the emoji the kid wants, and they scan the emoji, and the emoji has to hold a face, and that face is what appears on the phone. And every emoji has their own thing that they do, whatever, it's no big deal, except that Gene, I think is his name, this meh emoji, he experiences other emotions too that he can't control. Like he'll laugh at something, or he'll start crying when he's sad and stuff like that. And he screws up during his first appearance on the phone and gets banished, or he's going to get banished and deleted by the leader of the emojis, Smiley. And
I'm just going to say right now, this sounds horrible.
Yeah, is this suggesting that there are other emojis of the same ilk? Like, they're going to delete him, but don't they need another meh emoji? So
I mean, he has parents that are both meh emojis, so I mean, maybe they'd go back. I don't know. That's one of the problems with this movie is that its logic doesn't really work very well at all.
Because they didn't put much thought into it because they just wanted to make money.
So the concept is that if you are the one thing emoji, then that is literally your only emotion you ever experience, or is supposed to be.
That's the one you're required.
No, this is literally like what they do. That is their default emotion. That's all they have.
See, to me, that sounds like hell for a screenwriter, because how do you convey emotion in a movie where a character only is allowed to have one emotion except for one? That's like he literally can't relate to anyone.
That's why they made one. That's why they made an emoji that experiences multiple emotions.
Do you guys remember the opening of the Lego movie? Not the opening, but the one that established the world that what's the main character's name in that movie?
Emmett.
Played by Chris Emmett. Yeah, that Chris Pratt plays. He's going through his town, and he's like, getting Starbucks. He's driving through, listening to music and all that. It's establishing how this world works and the emotions and the attitude that everyone has. Everyone's all upbeat. We're following the rules, yeah. But there's this manic underpinning of not evil, but of something sinister happening to these people, of propaganda and mindlessness and manipulation. So it's like it's doing the business of comedy and being weird while at the same time telling you something isn't quite right about this world and something's going to change very soon with this world. It sounds like the Emoji Movie just has that one.
There's more to it than that, because once he does the wrong emotion, the owner of the phone begins to think that there's something wrong with his phone. So basically, the original emoji Smiley wants to delete the malfunction, Gene. Because if he keeps fucking up, then the kid will take his phone back to the phone store and get it reset, which will kill everybody in the phone.
So he'll take his phone back because because one emoji fucked up.
Well, there's more than that. I mean, it's things that in the other apps sound off and not supposed to. So after they leave, I'm gonna backtrack a bit. Gene learns that he can basically get reprogrammed to only feel the one emotion. So he leaves with High Five, played by James Corden, and then they find a hacker named Jailbreak. And this is one of the interesting things of the movie is that they travel through different apps on the wallpaper, and they basically pass through this gigantic, like if your text app is green, it's basically this giant green square that they step through like a waterfall, and they're inside the app now. And every time they're inside an app and doing stuff, it causes the phone that the kid owns to sound off. So whatever app he's in, it starts making noises and malfunctioning. So that's what makes him upset. There's a lot of product placement in this movie. They go through
a movie about cell phones.
Actually, they don't name drop any phone brands.
Really?
Nope.
That's surprising. Yeah.
But they do name drop and or visit Shazam, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Dropbox, Just Dance. I don't even know what else.
Grindr.
Not Angry Birds.
Oh my.
That would be funny.
Literally.
But YouTube they go to.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they have to if you're making.
You can see this coming from a mile away, but the evil robots that are trying to terminate Gene, they're like, oh, we're going to hold these robots off. I got an idea. They'll be stuck for hours. And they press a button, and the robots are just standing, staring at the screen. And I'll give you 3 guesses what they were watching.
A cat?
A cat!
Okay.
It's all predictable stuff. It's terrible. Like, there was one thing that I laughed at after the board is making the decision to get rid of Gene. The poop emoji played by Patrick Stewart expresses that he thinks they're being a little too harsh. And then the Satan emoji says, oh, poop, you're so soft. And
it is kind of funny.
It's kind of funny. And then Patrick Stewart's like, not too soft, I hope. And it's like it's kind of funny. Like every once in a while, you get an idea or a joke that's all right. It's just
that kind of lands a little bit. You're so
a little bit only because there's no way that it can't land.
Yeah, right. It had to be that good.
From an interview I saw with Patrick Stewart like months ago, he seemed insanely enamored with just the concept of playing poop.
I would be too if I was his age and played a J.R.R. Tolkien character and a Marvel Comics character.
Not to mention Shakespeare. It's his way of saying that I'm not just theater actor.
He's basically saying I've paid my dues. I'm going to do whatever I want.
I can do whatever the fuck I want, and he's
right.
right. It's like Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro can do whatever the fuck he wants right now, and
the difference is Robert De Niro's doing whatever the fuck he wants and not showing any sign that he cares.
Yeah, he doesn't have the passion anymore.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Patrick Stewart, God bless him, is pumped to play a piece of shit in an animated film. Literally.
A year after playing a piece of shit Nazi in a hardcore rated R film.
Oh yeah, he wasn't that.
And in the same year as playing Professor Xavier in a very profound role in Logan.
Yeah, yes. That's true. I love Patrick Stewart. I really do. So.
Yeah.
Speaking of SNL skits, like just going back to what I said earlier about the Skarsgård thing, there was another SNL skit where this was like in the mid '90s, and it was Michael McKean. He was playing Patrick Stewart on a parody episode of Emergency 911, and he starts, "I'm Patrick Stewart filling in for William Shatner." And I thought that was the funniest fucking thing. I didn't have to watch the rest of the skit. That was the highest high for me, because I was like, just the idea that the producers of the show, because they couldn't get William Shatner to be on because maybe he's sick or something, they replaced him with Patrick Stewart temporarily. And I was like, the only line of thinking was Star Trek, and I thought like that's hilarious to me.
Now, at its heart, the way you're describing an Emoji Movie sounds fable-like, where it's about the one different person in a world of everyone who's the same, who's kicked out of, sort of, and has to venture out on his own to discover, to sort of a journey of discovery.
I think you're giving it too much credit.
Not really that. It's more like everybody else has their own defined role, but it's okay to say fuck that and do whatever you want.
That's not
wait a second. You know what that is? That is the point.
Yeah.
No, that like Harry Nilsson's The Point. Have you ever seen the animated film The Point?
No.
Okay, well, it's a movie from the 70s, and actually it was based on a concept album of the same name. Harry Nilsson wrote this story. It's about a boy named Oblio, who is the only round-headed person in a village where everyone has a pointy head. And everyone and everything in this world has a point.
Okay.
But he's the only one with a circle.
Yeah, he has a round head, and therefore he doesn't have a point. And he's kicked out of this world because he's pointless.
Okay.
And, yeah, Nilsson actually admitted that he wrote this entire story on acid. And the cartoon, though, is... The cartoon is really great. It's like an hour-long ABC special movie of the week sort of thing that's narrated by Ringo Starr.
Of course.
And I think depending on the version you get, it's like Ringo Starr or Dustin Hoffman or Alan Thicke. But the Ringo Starr one's the one I have on video.
Alan Thicke.
Yeah.
He does. Oh, so we're watching this pointless character do his thing, and
But it's it's kind of the animation style is kind of like the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, where it's very hippie-ish and trippy. But the way you're describing the story kind of makes me think of that, where it's like this character who is different from everyone else and is isolated in that. And
except the content and the animation of this movie sounds like the antithesis of hippieism.
Yeah, whereas this had a kernel of kind of genius behind it, and I would recommend, if you've never seen The Point, it shows up. I'm pretty sure it was like on Amazon Prime at one point.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But yeah, bottom line, the Emoji Movie goes for it goes for all of the easy jokes, and not always and often not in a good way. And there are a couple little clever things, like how they work different worlds into the logic of the phone world. Every app is this whole different environment. There's way too much product placement. Like at one point, they're like, hey, we're at the Dropbox app. The security bots can't follow us in here because this is so well protected. Or they basically just give a 10-second commercial for how secure the Dropbox app is.
Did they make a joke about microtransactions being annoying?
They made a joke about spam mail. An envelope walks up and says, "Hey, good to see you again. I just want to tell you about this new deal. You can get 25% off." And then
spam mail jokes were hilarious.
What?
Spam jokes were hilarious like 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like, again, like what would a spam file do? It would probably advertise something. It's like, what would the troll do? It would be a fat person wearing glasses and messy hair and a t-shirt and just insults everybody for no reason. It's all the easiest.
By the way, The Point, narrated by Ringo Starr, is free on Amazon Prime right now. So
okay, good.
I just had to look that up. In fact, I'm probably going to watch that this weekend.
The animation was better than I thought it was going to be. There's kind of as they go again to different places, there's a different vibrancy to everything. Like everything has a slightly different feel to it. Mm-hmm. And even if the emojis themselves they're supposed to be flat characters in a 3D space, and I thought they executed that well enough. I don't know.
Was it well enough?
I don't know. It's a pretty shitty movie.
We should just edit this entire discussion down to the Emoji Movie, and then you says, I don't know, it was a pretty shitty movie.
So that's all I have to say on that.
You can kind of tell that a animated film is going to be problematic when literally all the voices are celebrities.
Although the comedian that plays Gene's dad, I always forget his name.
It is nothing to do. It's nothing against each individual voice performer. It's that they focused on, let's get this funny person to voice a character rather than let's get a good let's get someone who fits for this character.
Yeah, but in this case, like, he really fit. Like, damn it. Stephen Wright.
Oh, well.
Oh.
He's like, yeah, son, I am just filled with excitement over this.
That goes without saying. Stephen Wright is he like sadness, or what is he?
He's meh. The dad meh.
Oh, father meh.
Mel Meh is his name.
Mel Meh.
Mel Meh, and then the mom is Mary Meh, played by Jennifer Coolidge.
Mel Meh sounds like mailman. Mel Meh.
Just Mel Meh. His first name is Mel. His last name is
I have nothing to add to that. I'm just looking at the. Oh God, Rachel Ray is spam. That makes way more sense.
That's not bad, right?
That's like, not bad.
Sofia Vergara is in this movie.
She has like a line. She's the dancing.
Spanish lady. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Am I the only one who like cannot fucking stand Sofia Vergara? Like,
yeah, I don't mind her.
I got nothing against her. She was in. She was one of the only good parts in Machete Kills. She played the woman with the machine gun breasts.
I don't even remember that.
It's not a good movie, but her role in it was okay.
She was clearly having fun.
Yes.
Okay. I just like everything I've seen her in is like.
She was good in Chef, the Jon Favreau movie.
Yeah.
She was doing that. Yeah.
She was.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you Chef. You know, it's not her. Maybe it's the fact that she's she's typecast as these like the Medea kind of movies, or
The wacky Latino.
The crazy Latino mom.
Yeah, I guess it's. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent there.
Sure.
Any other thoughts on the Emoji movie?
It's very frustrating. The movie has a couple of moments of genuine ingenuity, but everything else is so badly written and just kind of terrible that I don't recommend seeing it at all. It's just sad to see what could have been. Like if this was a story not about emojis, like if it was like a Tron setting with characters instead of faces, it might have been interesting. But the whole emoji thing just kills it. It just feels like it's pushing a product. It's not as boring as the Smurfs: The Lost Village. So I guess it's got that going for it.
All right.
But don't see it.
Didn't TJ Miller recently go on a rant on Twitter?
This is a little worrisome. He was saying he's going on Twitter saying that he just wants to make people laugh, but he's a piece of shit that's going to kill himself, and he deleted it though.
Okay, well that's good.
TJ Miller has a tendency to say things that he regrets.
Yeah.
I think most famously, he called out on a podcast. He called out Michael Bay after his appearance in the Transformers movie, and Michael Bay got like super pissed at him, and Miller immediately issued like an apology for it, probably because I think Michael Bay has enough power in Hollywood that he could sink your career if he wanted to.
That's what happened with Megan Fox, yeah.
No, he basically, TJ Miller told some background stories about basically how Michael Bay is kind of a domineering a-hole on set.
That was after Age of Extinction, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I'd read something that his character died so early and with so little repercussion that it had to do with them feuding. You know, Michael Bay was literally like, you know what, fuck you, you're out of the next 20 pages of the script and you're dying in this scene.
The comedian Doug Benson said that he actually walked out of Age of Extinction when TJ Miller died because he knew from that point forward there would literally be nothing in the movie for him to watch. And since I sat through that whole movie, I kind of agree that would have been the perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
Instead of have 3 more hours of pain.
3? I thought it was like 9.
Close.
Almost there.
Yeah.
So I have no good segue, so we'll just jump in.
Hold on.
You don't have to think of one.
Speaking of movies that feature American stuff, like Transformers does.
All right.
Patriot Games.
This was my pick this week for the for the movie exchange that Hawk, Ripjaw, and I have. I chose this because when I was back in the 90s, when I was watching movies on TV, I remember seeing this on like USA, and it was a movie that really caught my eye, and it was kind of the first thing that got me into reading like Tom Clancy novels. The Tom Clancy novel that this is based on has there are so many differences that it's not even funny. But oddly enough, even though Tom Clancy apparently disowned this movie, I prefer it to the book.
I haven't read the book.
I've read a good number of Clancy novels, and I enjoy a good number of them. His fucked up politics aside, so I recommended it to Hawk because the Jack Ryan movies are kind of it was a thing in the 90s. You know, you had first in the 80s, you had The Hunt for Red October, and then Harrison Ford had this, which was a pretty big hit, and then Clear and Present Danger, which was even more popular. And then they attempted 2 times to reboot the Jack Ryan story, once with Ben Affleck and once with Chris Pine. And now they're attempting a 3rd time. Amazon has a Jack Ryan TV series scheduled for a 2018 release.
Who's playing Jack Ryan?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
John Krasinski.
Oh, yeah, I did read that.
Yeah.
John Krasinski. That's interesting.
Jim from The Office.
Yeah.
I wonder how many... He'll just, like, punch somebody and then do that Jim face with the camera.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know what? I could see it working. The point is, Jack Ryan is supposed to be, your everyman kind of character. He's not supposed to be like a super action hero. He's supposed to be a character who,
Like Chris Pine was in the
Chris
Shadow
Prime.
Recruit. Yeah, Prine.
well, Jack Ryan. The storyline of Jack Ryan as a character within the Tom Clancy verse is basically Ryan served in Vietnam, and he was a helicopter pilot, I believe, something like that, and and he was wounded and in action, and that's pretty much the only actual field experience he has prior to the events of the Jack Ryan stories, and he experiences a series of things where he's sort of dropped in. And is kind of way over his head. He has enough military experience to handle himself, but he's by no means like a superhero. So, Hawk, what did you think of Patriot Games? I'm curious.
It was pretty good thriller. It was a little more intense than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would. I mean, a lot of movies from that era kind of have lulls, but this one kept things going at a pretty brisk pace. When I first was watching it, I told you this. I've never been a really big fan of Philip Noyce as a director. I think he's very, as you said, workmanlike.
Yeah.
And the first half of Patriot Games has a very rudimentary look to it. But as it goes on, it kind of gets a little more stylish and a little more interesting. Which I'm not looking for, Zack Snyder to direct this movie. It just, what I saw in the last 20 minutes was a lot more dynamic than what the rest of the movie was, and I liked that.
And I can kind of see what you're going with. There are quite a few stylistic moments, I think, in the movie that really I dig. Earlier in the film, there's a montage sequence in which an IRA officer is his house is being attacked by hitmen to the tune of this Enya like kind of Irish Celtic folk singer. Like he's watching it on TV, and I think a really cool little haunting moment. I like those touches, but Phil Noyce is a director who I would argue he's one of those directors who rarely brings he's not like an auteur, but if the material is good, he will make a good movie. Rabbit Proof Fence, The Quiet American. I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of Patriot Games, as we'll go into, but Clear and Present Danger. He is solid film, but when he doesn't have the material to work with, like The Giver, or say Salt, which I was not a fan of.
Nobody was.
Yeah. The Bone Collector.
I didn't hate.
Yeah, I didn't dislike that movie. But it was good for like one watch.
It was kind of dumb, but like in an okay way.
That's true. I guess I'll say that. Really, Rabbit Proof Fence is probably my favorite movie of his. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But the plot of Patriot Games, for those who don't know, the movie opens up with Jack Ryan and his family at the point where this movie takes place in the chronology of Jack Ryan. He is retired from the CIA and the military, and he's now teaching, and he's in London to give a speech in front of a speech in front of a college audience. And after giving the speech, he and his family are going through the touristy areas of London, only to witness a terrorist attack against a member of the royal family that was done by a splinter group, members of the IRA. The group is led by Sean Bean in this case. Well, actually, no. Sean Bean's like the second to what's his name? Is it Patrick Bergen or something?
No, you're thinking of Candace Bergen.
No, I'm trying to remember what his name is. The guy who, yeah, it is Patrick Bergen, who plays Kevin O'Donnell. Who's basically Sean Bean's character. Sean Miller is sort of second to him. Anyway, Jack Ryan in a spur of the moment decision, he he helps to thwart the terrorist attack by leaping into action. He disarms the youngest one and shoots him and kills him. And he manages to shoot Sean Bean while getting shot himself, and holds them down just long enough for the military to come in and save the day. And from there, Sean Bean vows revenge against Jack Ryan because he killed his brother.
Right.
And basically Jack Ryan goes home, Sean Bean goes to jail only to escape, and of course vows vengeance, while at the same time he's working with this splinter group of the IRA. And there's this interesting pull that I like in the film, in that he has two things he owes loyalty to. There's the IRA like splinter cell that is trying to basically bring the fight to the British in a much more violent way than the regular IRA is. But Sean Bean is kind of blinded by his need for revenge against Jack Ryan. Yeah. And what I enjoy about the film is it's a movie with a lot of really great little acting scenes.
Yeah.
Most notably, go ahead. You had something to add to that?
Oh, I think I'm about to say the same thing you were. Harrison Ford's speech to the IRA guys.
Yeah, I'm going to quote it from beginning to end because I love it. He comes up to the head of the IRA and he says, he's trying to get the American the American representative of the IRA to give him the location of where Sean Bean's camp is, and he basically because at this point Sean Bean has done some things that have hurt his family in a very major way. Not to spoil too much, but Jack Ryan says, "I'll go home and call the news stations, invite them into my daughter's hospital ward, give them what they want. I don't give a shit whether you did it or not. But if you don't help me, I will put a stranglehold on your gun money that your boys will be out in the streets throwing rocks. I will fucking destroy you. I will make it my mission in life." And I think that's the first time when I was a kid that I heard fucking in a movie. And to this day, Harrison Ford going, "I will fucking destroy you," is just hardcore.
My family.
Yes.
Yeah, give me back my family.
And there's a lot of other great little lines in the movie. Of course, you mentioned one early in the movie. You're not going to make me wear a rubber, are you, darling?
Oh god.
No,
but like take that Irish accent and like triple it. Like it's like Adam Sandler character Irish accent.
Yes.
You're not gonna make me wear a rubber, are you, darling?
To be fair, most of the actors who play Irish people in this movie are actually not Irish, because apparently a good number of Irishmen turned down roles in this movie because of the way it depicts the IRA. I've actually, in the last couple of years, I watched a series of movies about the IRA that were produced by Irish filmmakers, and it's interesting to see the differences in how they're depicted between that and American movies and British movies too. Mm-hmm. But I enjoy Patriot Games. It's by no means is it a amazing, groundbreaking movie, but it's got a solid cast. I mean, you've got Harrison Ford, Ann Archer, Patrick Bergen, Sean Bean, Thora Birch. Remember her?
Yes.
Yeah, one of her more prominent child performances prior to her big. Thora Birch is probably best known for like American Beauty, but her work as a child actress, she had like Hocus Pocus. If you remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she disappeared. Ghost World. Well, within the last few years, I guess she's resurfaced a little bit. But I thought I heard some like controversy of how, like after American Beauty, like her father like screwed her over or something. I can't. Don't quote me on that. I can't say that for sure, but I remember hearing about some sort of weird controversy there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm typing in Google right now because I'm pretty sure it was a Cracked article that talked about that. Oh, here we go. I found it. Called Six Insane Reasons Formerly Famous People Dropped Off the Map. It was an article from 2013. And listen to this. Thora Birch stops getting work because of her creepy dad. Let me read just part of this because I remember this being fascinating. It says here, most of you remember Thora Birch from American Beauty, but she was already kind of a big deal by age 8, winning Best Young Actress under 9 years of age. Yes, that's an award that exists.
Okay.
And then blah, blah, blah. It's just talking about her fame. But then it says here, she has appeared in virtually nothing of note since 2001, and the cause appears to be her ex-porn star father.
Oh.
Jack Birch was a 1970s porn star, most famous for appearing in Deep Throat. He functions as Thora's manager, although not a very good one, since all he seemed to do is cause trouble and get her fired. His background may explain his behavior. For instance, during the filming of the film Winter of Frozen Dreams, Jack insisted on being present for all of Thora Birch's adult scenes.
Oh, it's nothing weird, though. I'm just her adult coach.
It says here, this was understandable for her role in American Beauty, where she was underage and parental supervision was legally required. But by this point, she was 26, and Dad was still hanging around, giving the crew instructions on how to make his baby girl look like a good lay.
Oh, God.
He threatened to pull her off the movie and kill the assistant directors because they weren't shooting the sex scenes the way he wanted.
You're not shooting it just right.
Yeah. It says here she was fired off off-Broadway production of Dracula in 2010 because her father apparently physically threatened another actor for rubbing Thora's back during a scene.
That's my job.
And she was also fired from Manson Girls, and for similar reasons. And it's like, wow. Well, maybe you should fire your dad if he's being awkward and creepy.
Well, it's kind of hard to do. I mean, it's your dad. You know, what do you?
And this is a good Cracked article because then it talks right after that about the star of the movie, Flash Gordon, left acting to do security and hostage extraction.
That's kind of cool, but
yeah,
they really do a good job of researching their stuff.
Yeah. What I think puts Cracked above sites like BuzzFeed is, yes, they're definitely clickbaity in terms of the way they title their articles, but they're very well researched and interesting topics.
They basically totally deliver on the clickbait.
Exactly. They give it a clickbaity headline, but then they actually have well written and interesting things to say. So anyway, and any other thoughts on Patriot Games?
I like the climax. It was kind of reminded me of Face Off, where they're fighting in the speeding boats, and then Harrison Ford jumps off, and the boat that's on fire just blows up when it hits a rock.
Oh yeah, now it's worth noting that Harrison Ford. There's a scene in that boat fight where Sean Bean clearly has this huge gash on his face. Mm-hmm. The scene where Harrison Ford hits him with like the anchor.
Yeah.
He actually accidentally smacked him in the face with that anchor. And to this day, Sean Bean has a scar on his face because of that. If you watch a lot of movies from that time period, that a couple of years after that GoldenEye came out, and he's got that big fucked up scar on his face in that movie.
Oh, they totally were like, nah, he got shot in the face. It's fine.
Yeah, they write that into the movie specifically. Because, I don't know if it was specifically because of that injury, but yeah, I find that fascinating. And it's also, of course, yes, this is a Sean Bean movie where Sean Bean, of course, dies. That's unsurprising.
Violently.
Yeah.
Violently, yes. And this is pre-Pulp Fiction Samuel L. Jackson. He gets a nice little scene in the movie.
Have Harrison Ford and Sean Bean been in a movie together since then?
You know what? That's a good question. Let me look that up. Are you asking because of the face smack thing?
Yeah, I'm not seeing. I think it's almost the only movie they were in together that I can tell.
Yeah, I think so. which that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
There should be an app where that probably exists. You plug in an actor between 1 and 5 actors, and it'll tell you how many of those movies they've been in together.
There's the Oracle of Bacon, actually. Have you ever heard of this?
Is
No.
that an app or is that a movie?
Yeah, is that the name of the app, or is that a movie they were in together?
Oh no, the Oracle of Bacon is it's not an app, it's a website, and it's one of the it's an older website that is basically you've heard of the 6 Degrees of Separation, Kevin Bacon.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Yeah.
Well, the Oracle of Bacon was actually created. It was a university project at one point. I'm trying to remember. I think it was like some university in Virginia or something put this together, and the University of Virginia. Yep. Yeah, and basically what it is you type in Kevin Bacon is what it defaults to, and you can find out how many degrees of separation any actor is from Kevin Bacon using it. Apparently, they do have an app for iOS and Android.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. There goes my idea.
So let's go with Harrison Ford and Sean Bean.
Okay.
Are you in there right now?
Yes, I'm typing it in right now. Okay, Harrison Ford and Sean Bean. All right. Okay, Patriot Games is the only movie that they're linked with.
Okay.
Now, that said, just for fun, give me 2 other random actors that you would think would not be at all related in any way.
Eddie Murphy and Selma Hayek.
Okay. And Selma Hayek. Okay, Selma Hayek has an Eddie Murphy number of 2. Selma Hayek was in Traffic with Elaine Kagan, who was in Beverly Hills Cop 3 with Eddie Murphy.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is when you search, if trying to find movies with really obscure Bacon numbers. So, like, take like silent film stars and connect them to recent ones, like Charlie Chaplin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, give me a Charlie Chaplin. Give me an actor who you would think would have absolutely nothing to do with Charlie Chaplin.
Marlon Brando.
I was going to say Sean Connery.
Marlon Brando was in Charlie Chaplin's film A Countess from Hong Kong.
Oh.
Okay, so give me another one.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
Yeah, Sean Connery.
He has a banking number of 2. Sean Connery was in Thunderball with Roy Lansford, who was in A Countess from Hong Kong.
Interesting.
All right, give me one more.
Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer and Javier Bardem.
I'll do that in a second, but Val Kilmer was in Top Secret with Roy Lansford, who was in A Countess from Hong Kong. All right, so Val Kilmer and Javier Bardem. All right. Val Kilmer was in, oh my God, we've come full circle, the Bob Dylan movie Masked and Anonymous with Penelope Cruz, who was in Haman Haman with Javier Bardem.
She was in she was in that Woody Harrelson movie with him too, right?
You mean Woody Allen?
Woody Allen, that's what I meant, yeah.
2 different people. Yeah, she was in that movie where they were in Spain.
Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other one. They also link for a movie through another movie called El Amor Prejudicia Ceramentia. I'm not even going to pronounce the rest of it. They actually have a bunch of links because Val Kilmer was in Provinces of Night with Barry Corbin, who was in No Country for Old Men.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Oracle of Bacon is actually it's a great website, and now that they have an app, I'm totally downloading that app.
Yeah, that's kind of fun, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. So with that said, we've covered our topics for this week. Was there anything else that we wanted to get in?
I don't think so.
I think we're good. Yeah.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for joining us on this week's Movie Boozer Pubcast. And next week, amongst the films that are coming out, Detroit, The Dark Tower, and Kidnap.
I am reviewing Kidnap. That was my number 1 request.
Wait, who directed Kidnap?
Some guy. He's never done anything else.
Oh, okay.
Or not. I think he's done maybe one other thing. Let me see here. I just remember that when I
films film.
You what?
Is this a WWE movie or?
I don't think so.
Because it sounds like the Call or whatever that other.
It's very much like The Call. This is directed by Louis Prieto.
I don't know. Yeah.
He has done
probably television work or something, right?
Now, Detroit's a summer movie release from Catherine Bigelow. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but Catherine Bigelow was famous for being one of the few summer movie release directors to win an Oscar for Best Picture for that.
For Hurt Locker,
Hurt Locker was a summer movie release, which no one saw it, though.
I saw it first.
Yeah, it just didn't make that much money. It was... I think a box office bomb at first until
the Oscar nomination. Then they re-released it, and then people went to go see it.
I cannot wait though to see Detroit because I've heard some really good things about it.
I've also heard some really bad things too. A media critic who also does film reviews, Angelica Bastian. She's really good critic. She wrote on RogerEbert.com a scathing review of the movie. That the movie made her so angry she cried.
Wow.
You know, so she wrote this like really awesome review of it. That's really insightful, but it's also like very negative about the movie. So
it is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So
I have no doubt that people.
The more critics at least thought it was good, then I mean, not necessarily great because of course all Rotten Tomatoes tells you is more critics liked it than not.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna go see it, but. That her review of it gave me some pause because I take her opinions very highly.
Sure.
And I'm like, all right, so I should go in tempering my expectations.
I'm just now typing in Armand White to see if he has said anything about Detroit.
Oh, I think someone on Twitter said they're looking forward to Armand White's review in a very sarcastic, ironic way. And I was like, yeah, I guess so.
I'm pulling up his website as we speak, and I'm just going to read whatever the name is of the first article that comes up. Just
go ahead.
All right. Atomic Blonde and From the Land of the Moon Trade in Feminist Propaganda.
Sounds like Armand White.
Yep.
I just hear like the Game Over music in Pac-Man every time I read an Armand White.
What were you about to say, Hawk?
Oh, I was going to update you. The director of Kidnap, his only other major film was the remake of Nicholas Winding Refn's Pusher.
Oh, okay. That's probably why you got this thing.
And to put more perspective on this is another victim of the relativity collapse. It was originally scheduled for release on October 9th, 2015. And it can be delayed. I have been waiting for this movie and watching it because when I first saw that trailer, I was excited because I was like, "This is going to be the biggest piece of shit of the year."
And what about Geostorm? You think Geostorm's going to be worse? Or
better? I can't wait for Geostorm. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so.